Giridharadari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Shri Radha Damodara Ki Jai Radha Madhava Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so they're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 26, verses 16 and 17. This chapter's entitled A Description of the Hellish Planets. So we are in the last chapter of, yes, we're almost at the 6th canto. Amazing. Okay. Okay. So that's 5:26. And we'll start with verse 16. Yas Dviha va Raja Purusho va Adandye Dandam Panayati Brahmane va Sarira Dandam Sapapiyan Narake Mutra Sukhamar Mukhe Nipatati Tatrati Baler Vinispiyam Navayavo Yadhaivahe Kshukanda Atra Svarena Svaranyam Kvachit Murchita Kasmalam Upakato Yataiveha Trista Dosha Uparudhaha. Okay. I'll just translation. In his next life, a sinful king or governmental representative who punishes an innocent person or who inflicts corporal punishment upon a brahmana is taken by the Yamadutas to the hell named Sukaramukha, where the most powerful assistants of Yamraj crush him exactly as one crushes sugarcane to squeeze out the juice. The sinful living entity cries very pitiably and faints, just like an innocent man undergoing punishments. This is the result of punishing a faultless person. Okay. So punishing an innocent person or inflicting corporal punishment upon a brahmana gets squeezed like a sugarcane. Okay, next text. Okay, for the sake of time, I'll just do the word for word. Okay, so this is text 17, synonyms. Okay. Yeah, any person who, to, but, iha, in this life, vai, indeed, bhutanam, to some living entities, ishvara, by the supreme controller, upakalpita, designed, vrithinam, whose means of livelihood, avivikta, not understanding, pada vyathanam, the pain of others, Svayam, himself, Purusha Upakalpita, designed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vritti, whose livelihood, Vivikta, understanding, Pada Vyata, a painful condition, the painful condition of others, Vyatam Acharati, but still causes pain, Sa, such a person, Paratra, in his next life, Andakupe, to the hell named Andakupa, Tat, to them, Abhidrohena, by the sin of malice, Nipatati, falls down, Tatra, there, Ha, indeed, Asa, that person, Tai Jantubi, by those respective living entities, Pasu, animals, Mriga, wild beast, Pakshi, birds, Sadis, Pai, snakes, Masika, mosquitoes, Yukta, lice, matkuna, worms, makshika adibi, flies, and so on, yeke, whoever else, cha, and abhidrukta, persecuted, tai, by them, sarvata, everywhere, abhidruhyamana, being injured, tamasi, in the darkness, vihata, disturbed, nidra nivriti, whose resting place, alabda, not being able to obtain, avasthana, a resting place, parikramati, wanders, yatha, just as, ku sarire, in the low-grade body, jiva, the living entity. Whew. Okay, I need to take a little water after that. Okay, translation. By the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, low-grade living entities like bugs and mosquitoes suck the blood of human beings and other animals. Such insignificant creatures are unaware that their bites are painful to the human being. However, first-class human beings, brahmanas, kshatriyas, and vaishyas, are developed in consciousness, and therefore they know how painful it is to be killed. A human being endowed with knowledge certainly commits sin if he kills or torments insignificant creatures who have no discrimination. The Supreme Lord punishes such a man by putting him into the hell known as Andakupa, where he is attacked by all the birds and beasts, reptiles, mosquitoes, lice, worms, flies, and other creatures he tormented in his life. They attack him from all sides, robbing him of the pleasure of sleep. Unable to rest, he constantly wanders about in the darkness. Thus, in Andakupa, his suffering is just like that of a creature in the lower species. Wow. Quite intense, huh? Purport. Shilapapa ki jai. From this very instructive verse, we learn that lower animals, created by the laws of nature to disturb the human being, are not subjected to punishment. Because the human being has developed consciousness, however, he cannot do anything against the principles of Varnashram Dharma without being condemned. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 4:13, Chatuvarna maya sristam gunakarma vipagasa. Quote, according to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me. Thus, all men should be divided into four classes, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, and they should act according to their ordained regulations. They cannot deviate from their prescribed rules and regulations. one of these states, um, one of these states that they should never trouble any animal, even those that disturb human beings. Although a tiger is not sinful if he attacks another animal and eats its flesh, if a man with developed consciousness does so, he must be punished. In other words, a human being who does not use his developed consciousness, but instead acts like an animal, surely undergoes punishment in many different hells. Okay, just curious little point here. So Prabhupada's saying, of these states, one of these states that they should never trouble any animal, even those that disturb human beings. So Prabhupada's saying here that, okay, don't give trouble to animals, even if they disturb you. Interesting. I'm not laying down the law or anything, but sometimes when devotees are getting attacked by mosquitoes and they kill the mosquito and they say, well, the mosquito is an aggressor and aggressors can be killed. Well, I don't, like I said, I'm not laying down the law here or anything, but it's interesting to now take this statement into consideration. Prabhupada's saying, even if you're disturbed even if, one shouldn't give trouble to animals, even those that disturb human beings. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, admittedly, well, in agriculture, you have to kill lots of other beings that disturb us. Anyways, curious points, maybe in the comments after we can talk about that a little, if anyone wants to. Okay. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatan Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvi evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. All right. So, yes, we're getting more instructions here about the hellish planets, and Bhagavatam is so merciful that it tells us what happens. For certain how different activities lead you to different hellish planets. So it's very good to know that we are all, as there's a verse in Bhagavatam that states in the 4th canto, sorry, I didn't prepare it, I didn't pull it up, but it's stating how the human form of life is kind of the platform by which one can pick his next life. So the human form of life is like a diving board, per se, where one can either go up or down. And yeah, I remember one time I used to sometimes I would do flips off things. Even though I didn't really, anyways, somehow I think I just wanted to show off or something. So, anyways, I like doing flips off things. And one time I was going to do a backflip off a diving board, and I was just standing at the end of the diving board, just like feeling very unsure that day. So I just remember standing there for like 2 minutes. Everyone's watching me. Like, come on, do it, do it. Finally get the courage to do it. Go for the backflip. You know, you're supposed to like jump out a certain amount so that you get a nice distance away from the backboard, from the diving board. But I didn't do that enough. So boom, I did it. We did a flip. My head hit the bottom of the diving board, and I felt unconscious and just like was bleeding and just started sinking to the bottom of the pool. So we don't want to sink. We don't want to. We want to jump up in a diving and use this diving board to jump up, like if we were an astronaut in space. And somehow they had a trampoline in the spaceship. You just jump and then just keep going up. So it's very, yes, to be acquainted with this knowledge is so helpful because coming in contact with these books, then people, this wisdom that Srila Prabhupada has presented, then the world is able to actually see things in proper perspective. Like, yeah, how many, like we were doing, some students were here recently, student group, and I was going to make a joke about reincarnation, and then I realized, wait a minute, it's probably a good chance that actually these people don't, believe in reincarnation, don't even really like acknowledge it very much. So I kind of like, my joke didn't manifest into the world. Probably wouldn't have been a very good joke anyway. So good thing I didn't say. But yeah, people don't have consciousness, a understanding that reincarnation is actually something. But by the mercy of these books, yeah, people can understand. I remember one time I went back, we were doing traveling book distribution. I went back to a college that I had distributed at. And one guy approached me and he said, I read your books and I'm never going to eat meat again. So somehow or other, okay, he didn't, get the ultimate, he's not striving for the ultimate goal that these books present, but he probably read something like, about how if you eat a cow, you take so many births in hellish planets. So it's very, yes, it's wonderful that we have this knowledge, and with this knowledge we can start being what my Guru Maharaj calls destination conscious. So just like if you go to an airport, you see people in the airport, then you can fairly assume that, okay, everyone is actually going somewhere. Someone's going to whatever, Tokyo, Sydney, Australia, whatever. You can think that you can fairly ascertain that everyone here is going somewhere. So similarly, in our life, it's the same way. We're actually preparing ourselves for a next life. So this is very nicely described in Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, verse 8 and 9. Very nice verses that depict how kind of that system works. So text 8 states, the living entity in the material world. So it's a wonderful, imagery. So this verse is saying that, okay, you can imagine air, right? Air, wind carries aromas. So air carries different aromas. And so in the same way as air carries aromas, in the material world, the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another. So the living entity here is compared to like the air. The air carries aromas, and we carry our conceptions from one body to another. So even though we take another body, but our conceptions, how our consciousness is formed, stays constant. And thus he takes one kind of body and then again quits it to take another. And so Prabhupada describes in the purport how we actually are able to control, we have control over our own body, right? Even in this life, I can control what I want to have for breakfast. Ken's muffins or, a strawberry juice, strawberry smoothie. So we all have different power like that. And so in that same way, we also have the ability to choose, okay, what do we want our next life to be? So we can all ask ourselves, what do I want my next life to be? Of course, we all think, oh yeah, I want my next life. I want to go back to the spiritual world, or I want to be, a rich person, born in a nice family like that. No one's going to say, okay, I want to go to hell. I want to go to hell. But okay, if you now have that desire to be elevated, well, now you have to work for it. As Nitai Chand Prabhu instructed us yesterday during his appreciation, he said, nothing comes without putting effort into it. Nothing gets done without putting effort into it. So Prabhupada's saying here, if you have made your consciousness like that of a cat or a dog, then okay, you're going to get a cat or a dog's body. But if you have fixed your consciousness in godly qualities, then you'll get, body of a demigod, yanti, right? The verse, yanti deva vratante van, priti yanti priti vrataha. If one worships the ancestors, then it will go there. If one worships the demigods, one will go there. And then ultimately, if one worships Krishna, becomes Krishna consciousness, then one will be transferred to the world to associate with Krishna. So I always thought that why can't there be a place that is just full of pleasure? I could see, before coming to Krishna consciousness, I had this ideal in my mind, like, why can't there be a place that's just full of pleasure? Because, um, I hadn't experienced that, and all I'd experienced was temporary pleasure, which was laced with so much pain. Generally, it was also, the proportions were a lot more pain than pleasure. But why? I always thought that. Where's the place where it's just full of pleasure? Like, why can't there be a place like that, full of happiness? Well, there is, yeah. Congratulations, there is that place. But of course, that place takes certain qualifications, certain qualities that one has to develop in this life. And oddly enough, or maybe not oddly enough, but contrary to popular belief, you can actually go to that place of pleasure by not desiring pleasure. So as His Holiness Vaisheshika Prabhu also says that, there's so many different planets, planet for this, planet for that. So it makes sense. There's also a planet of service. There's also a planet of service. And that's Krishna Loka, the planet of service. So one can get there by developing a service attitude. Just like, you don't, if you have a party or something, you don't want like that strange guy to come who just always like causes some ruckus and just is unpleasant to be around. If you had your choice, you pick, okay, I want this person to come, that person to come. I want people to come who are going to make a very harmonious party. So similarly, that's Krishna's system. He wants only the people with selfless qualities and ultimately pure love of him to go there. Okay, so next verse, Stotam chakshus parsanam cha rasanam granam evacha adistaya manaschayam vishyan upasevate. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So this verse is describing how, based on those conceptions that one has, then one will take another body and get certain bodily, working senses like that to fulfill those desires. So Prabhupada again makes this point about, in these two verses, he's making this reference to cats and dogs. If one lives like cats and dogs, then in his next body, he will get the body of a cat or dog. So apparently, maybe Prabhupada was seeing how people are generally living like cats and dogs, and therefore, probably many of them will, take a birth in that way. Like what? And what was that reference? Or some reference that there was some like king. I think Prabhupada tells the story. Some king in Europe, and enjoyed such royal opulence, and lived such a wonderfully lavish life, and then somehow it was found out that he in his next life he like took his birth as like a golden retriever or something. So yeah, Prabhupada's making the point here that originally consciousness is pure, but if we mix, just like if we mix color into like a bucket of white paint, if we mix some color into it, then that color of paint becomes contaminated. So similarly, our consciousness is like that. Anytime we expose ourselves to certain modes, then we actually become tainted by those modes. So we might think it's an innocent thing, like, oh well, okay, let me just watch a horror movie. Let me just watch a horror movie. Well, you can watch that horror movie, but you can realize if that horror movie is not connected to Krishna consciousness, then you're tainting your consciousness with those modes of nature. So yeah, it's very nice, this analogy that Prabhupada's making, because we can see that we can envision that our consciousness is like a bucket of white paint, and that bucket of paint. Now this is, I guess, my analogy, adding on to Prabhupada. That bucket of white paint is made in such a way that some paint always has to go into it, right? We can't just we're not my bodies, where we just want to negate the senses. So some paint has to go into the bucket. So if we can put more white paint into it, that's like putting Krishna consciousness into it, pure transcendental sound vibration, like that. Or we can put black paint, red paint, blue paint, like that. It can expose ourselves to these different things that are tinged, things that are contaminated by the modes of material nature. And then ultimately we are contaminating our consciousness. And it's not a innocent thing. Like there's the story, how Maya sneaks in. How Maya sneaks into your life. It's like if you have a basement. Of course, we have a basement here where we grow our starts. And in that basement, of course, okay, this better analogy is like if you're living, in a city or something. You have your basement, and it's a bad neighborhood, a lot of robbers, and you just leave a little crack open in that basement. But what happens is that crack is small enough to where the robber can just stick his fingers in, open the window, and come in and take everything. So we might think that little crack of Maya is okay once in a while, but we're ultimately, what we're doing is we're allowing that crack. It's going to be big enough to where Maya is going to be able to stick her fingers in, open the window, and take all our Loki starts. So yeah, one has to be very careful. And then this next verse, the foolish cannot understand how the living entity can quit his body. So like the point I was making before, that we are so fortunate that we have this knowledge. Yes, we're so fortunate to have this knowledge of how this whole system works. Okay, so maybe I'll stop there. Yeah, if any questions or comments, then devotees can feel free to, or if you want to talk about what I said, that one point that I pulled out of the purport about, is a mosquito an aggressor because it's attacking you, and one who attacks you is an aggressor? Or is this statement that Prabhupada said that one shouldn't cause harm to living entities, even if they are causing you trouble? Is that okay? Anyways. Yes, Loki, yes. Loki, gotta protect. Weren't you saying we gave you too much Loki in the CSA one year? Okay. So maybe you're sarcastically saying that because of your past trauma from too much Loki.
Hare Krishna Dasya Prema Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Tarika Prabhu.
You mentioned this issue about mosquitoes. It's something that I've thought a lot about over the years. I've inquired about a lot because, as you mentioned, our service here at Gita Nagari sometimes even inadvertently entails some killing. Ordinarily, in agriculture, non-devotees at least engage in a great deal of killing routinely, and they tend to believe that there is no alternative to such a thing. And because Srila Prabhupada in so many instances advises us not to engage in killing, it's been an issue for a lot of devotees, something that they've had a lot of questions about. I remember some time back, I asked Devarmrita Swami about that during a darshan, because I was growing flowers for the deities at the time, and flowering plants are subject to predation by all kinds of insects, and trying to produce a decent flower for the deities is sometimes impossible without doing something to control the insects. And so, I had this question. His response was that, he asked me, well, are you doing this for your own sense gratification, and my response was that no, I'm doing it for the pleasure of the deities. He said, well, so he didn't elaborate, but he implied that, so therefore I'm not liable if I kill in the course of rendering some service to the deities. But my question, I don't know, I was still not really fully satisfied. I still had some doubt because so many times I've heard Srila Prabhupada explain that that we should not kill under any circumstances. We know from Shastra that that there are 6 types of aggressors. Srila Prabhupada describes this in many purports. There's one who gives poison, one who sets fire to the house, so an arsonist, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's land, one who kidnaps a wife. Um, these are all, some of the types of aggressors. And Srila Prabhupada explains that um, if you there is no reaction to be incurred for killing an aggressor. So if you kill, let's say you kill another human being who is trying to kill you, that killing in self-defense does not result in uh, a reaction. You are justified in such killing. So in India, I know that many devotees will consider the killing of mosquitoes to be justified because a very large percentage of the mosquitoes in places, especially in Vrindavan, a high percentage of the mosquitoes are carrying malaria. Mayapur also, but and the strains of malaria uh, at present are um, very difficult to control. The medications that previously were used to control the disease are now less effective, and a lot of there's an incredible number of people who die every year from malaria, and so they regard some devotees will regard a mosquito as an aggressor who is attacking with a deadly weapon. The mosquitoes themselves are innocent; they have no knowledge of how they're adversely affecting anyone, but the mosquito bite can potentially be deadly, and so some will deem it justifiable to kill a mosquito. Srila Prabhupada, however, never allowed us to kill mosquitoes. Shruti Kirti tells a story about uh, how he would um, kill mosquitoes that would get inside Srila Prabhupada's mosquito net. So we would hang a mosquito net over Srila Prabhupada's asana and desk um, to protect him from the mosquitoes while he was doing his translating at night when the mosquitoes were very active. And when setting up the mosquito net, sometimes mosquitoes would get under the net. So Shruti Kirti would examine the area under the net, and if he found any mosquitoes, he would smack them and just clapping them between his hands. And Srila Prabhupada, as soon as he heard that sound, he understood what Shruti Kirti was doing, and he would shout at him, chastising him, yelling, don't kill. But what to do? Shruti Kirti is he continued to kill the mosquitoes in spite of Srila Prabhupada's instructing him not to, because um, he reasoned that he would rather uh, serve Simon in some hellish planet than have his spiritual master suffer or be inconvenienced or have his very important translating work adversely affected by the disturbance of the mosquitoes. And he certainly wouldn't want to have Srila Prabhupada becoming sick with malaria. So he felt that he would accept whatever reaction might be there in service to Srila Prabhupada. But Srila Prabhupada never, I'm not aware of Srila Prabhupada ever authorizing any killing of animals or insects, um, specifically. Um, However, he did uh, absolutely advise us um, that we must protect ourselves from aggressors, um, and that devotees should be armed. So there was infamously decades ago, New Vrindavan was attacked by a motorcycle gang, and they were armed. They had firearms. One devotee was shot and very seriously injured. Um, they were threatening to kill the devotees. They did damage to the deities. Radha Vrindavan Chandra were thrown to the ground and broken. Uh, uh, the devotees were beaten and tortured. When Srila Prabhupada heard this, of course, he was very upset, and um, he demanded to know, why were you not prepared to defend yourself against these aggressors? You should be armed. You should have weapons, and there should be some number of devotees. He suggested, I don't know, I think a dozen or 2 dozen devotees should be trained to defend the devotees and the deities against such attacks. Um, he explained that he himself in Mayapur they arranged to have some shotguns available. He insisted that this must all be done lawfully, according to the local laws and so on. You don't violate the law, but you should have firearms, and uh, and not that we not that we resort to some primitive means. Once one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, um, should the Kshatriyas be trained to use a bow and arrow? And Srila Prabhupada says, well, this is nonsensical. For our service, we want to use the whatever facility is most suitable, the best uh, available technology we want to employ. So firearms are superior to a bow and arrow. He advises in that way anyway. And being trained in the use of firearms, keeping firearms was um, not for show. The idea is that if necessary, you have individuals who are prepared to actually utilize those firearms in defense of the deities. It means, potentially someone may die. Um, Firearms are potentially deadly. They're deadly weapons. But this was Srila Prabhupada's instruction, that if necessary, you kill under the right circumstances. You should not be foolish and allow people to do harm. The devotees are very important. They have to be protected. Uh, we're not going to idly allow people to do harm to us or even potentially kill us. General principle for Vaishnavas is that a Vaishnava will tolerate all kinds of offense against himself personally, but he will never tolerate offenses against another devotee. So he will risk even his own life to defend another devotee, but he personally will tolerate any sort of offense. That's the general principle, but Srila Prabhupada did not want us to subject ourselves to abuses and offenses, that we have to understand that we have a responsibility to protect ourselves individually, to protect our body, which is Krishna's property and an important facility for the rendering of service. The devotees are few, they are rare. Um, they have to be protected, they have to be preserved. So we protect other devotees and we protect ourselves as well. So in at least during the time of Srila Prabhupada, the temples always had some number of devotees were trained in martial arts and the use of firearms, and various weapons were usually kept at strategic points in the temple so they would be immediately available. Some of us who served as um, bodyguards for Srila Prabhupada would carry weapons. Uh, so killing was sanctioned by Srila Prabhupada for the right purpose. But in connection with insects and animals, I've never heard him sanction such a thing. Are we out of time? We're out of time. I had more, but another day. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar, Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada की जय।
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi
Hare Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Great heart. Woo! Break dance Nagari. Really? You heard about that? Different options. What kind of place do you go where you can shout as loud as you can?
And nobody complains.
And no one basically, they actually say that very nice, very nice. You're the pain, the perception. Gita.
Thank you, Prabhus, for joining us this morning. And have a wonderful day.